We have 4 of the 5 pegs of the Big 5, but Jim can be a nice little trade out. Sorry, St. Joe's, I'll make that trade, and we can put Penn State in here. First off, I'd like to have each one of these guys kind of introduce themselves and where they come from on campus. Everyone else that's spoken here today has had the luxury of only having to work in one building. These guys, while obviously operating on a very different scale, some of them multiple venues, multiple video boards, different strategies, different everything across the board. So let's start with Kevin from LaSalle. Kevin, give us a little bit of what you're working with on campus, how many video boards, how many venues you service, and in what ways do you support them from a content standpoint?
Sure. So we have, men's basketball is our main sport. So we have 2 video boards inside Goal Arena where men's and women's basketball and volleyball play. And that's kind of our primary content creation. We create a lot of stuff for the video board, also with social and for our website. We're fortunate with our in-game production. You've heard from many of the illustrious panels I'm about to mention. Dave Sullivan from the Eagles, who's a LaSalle guy. He's our on-site engineer, and Sean Rainey from the Phillies and Carl Mandel. They're on site every game for us. And when you're dealing with, say, a 10-person production situation, when you have 8 of them being students, it's good to have a kind of professional helping us out. So that's kind of the approach that we take.
Great. Ryan from the National Champs.
Currently, we have 2 video boards at the pavilion. We outsource to Upstage to run those. Right now, we're going to take on a project and putting in a video board at the last minute before the football season begins at our football stadium. So right now, we're overseeing that. But we just, in terms of running the video boards, we depend on outsourcing to Upstage, and then camera operators, we use student workers.
Kevin?
Well, we're here in our football stadium, so that's a nice advantage for us down at Temple. We let the Eagles use it on Sundays.
Yeah, nice place you got here.
So from that production standpoint, we are very fortunate to have the entire weight of the Eagles organization behind us. We provide them with in-game elements and some content, but in terms of our production, they work with our marketing staff to produce that show. We have a video board at the Leah Corus Center, which is our men's basketball arena and occasional women's basketball venue. And then we've got a video board at McGonigal Hall, which is volleyball, gymnastics, and the bulk of our women's basketball home games. And this summer, we are actually putting in 2 new video boards at a new Temple Sports Complex, which is going to be our Olympic sports facility, housing men's soccer, women's soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, and track and field. So we're going from 3 video boards to 5. That will be a project that we're working on in terms of how those are going to be staffed and serviced. We currently outsource the production in both of our basketball arenas and are able to piggyback off of that and, again, provide them with the pieces of original content to kind of tie the show together. But it may be a different story at the new Temple Sports Complex, where we will be taking more of an active role in the video production in-game, in-house.
So we have 3 video boards at Penn, 1 at Franklin Field, 1 at the Palestra, and 1 that services both our soccer and field hockey fields, and actually swivels in between. So that's a neat little feature that we got there. The football stadium is home of football, sprint football, which is pretty unique to Penn, men's and women's lacrosse, and then basketball and wrestling and volleyball in the Palestra.
We've got video boards in 8 facilities on campus: indoor track, baseball, softball, and field hockey. Those video boards do not receive live production. We just create content for those. And then we've got 4 other facilities that do have video boards that receive full live production support. That's Rec Hall, where 5 of our teams compete: wrestling, men's and women's volleyball, men's and women's gymnastics. The Bryce Jordan Center, where men's and women's basketball compete. Pagula Ice Arena, where men's and women's ice hockey. And then Beaver Stadium, where football competes. Total, we produce about 350 video board events a year.
Okay. I'm interested on your guys' content strategy approach. And Jim, this was actually something that you spoke about at the College Summit down in Atlanta a few weeks ago. In this venue, the Eagles have one feel. Across the street, the 76ers have a feel. The Flyers have a feel. But for you, different sports might have different feels even within that community, you've compared football to wrestling. So maybe Jim, we'll start with you. In what ways do you kind of get a feel for what crowd wants what, and how those differences may be? Or do some of you have the philosophy as we go down the line where we want one firm brand to kind of permeate across everything? Where do you kind of sit on that, Jim?
Well, I think you have to know your fan, and it's a never-ending process of reevaluating where you are, where they are. You start, if you have tradition, you start with your tradition and your history. If you're going through the process of building that, you might have a little bit more control over which direction you're going in. But with us, we've been around for a long time. We've got a lot of strong history in a lot of sports. But our football fan, it's great coming here and the Eagles hosting something like this, because certainly a lot of our fans that come to games on Saturdays do come here for games on Sundays. And those expectations come with them when they come back on a Saturday. And there are different things, though, that are going to happen in our college facility that are not going to happen, or are not going to happen there that are going to happen here. So when you compare a 107,000 seat stadium for a football game, there are different expectations from the 21,000 students that are there, to the club suite owners, to the general ticket buyer, to compare that to a 6,000 seat wrestling facility where you turn the lights out and you have almost boxing lights and you can hear a pin drop in the facility. Those fans expect different things from the video board. Our wrestling fans don't want something that is a distraction. They want to see a good wrestling move, whether it's a pin, reversal, a takedown, something like that. They'll want to see a replay of that. Other than that, they just want to know what's happening, what's the score, what's the riding time, what's the injury time. Other than that, less is more when it comes to wrestling. When it comes to football, we've got two very large screens, and we're always reevaluating how do we deliver more stats, more replays, and giving fans what they want. With 107,000 fans, you can't make everybody happy, so you're going to try your best, but that's where it comes into play, of knowing who's there, knowing your stakeholders, knowing what your corporate obligations are, knowing what your student athletes expect, knowing what your coaches expect, knowing what your athletic director expects. You've got a lot of stakeholders there, and it is going to vary depending on the venue that you go to.
Sure. And Kevin from Temple, I guess it could be a blessing and a curse that your Saturday games are here. Do you find that sets the bar at a different level for Temple fans if they're seeing a basketball game or another sporting event, or do you think that they kind of get that, you're in the link and it's a totally different ballgame?
No, that definitely is a challenge. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, we're going to have more resources here than we're going to in our on-campus venues. But to a large extent, we, compared to Penn State especially, are of the building tradition rather than having a tradition mindset. So that does give us a little bit more freedom, I think, to dictate some of those terms. I think what we're trying to do right now, especially this summer, we're actually going through an athletic department-wide rebranding effort, is to really unify the look and the feel, and to take some of those folks, especially now that we're building a facility on North Broad, where our teams used to play out in Ambler, which is only about 12 miles north of campus, but going up North Broad Street, it could be anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half from campus. So we're trying to bring some folks that have not been on our campus on North Broad Street for maybe a long time back, and trying to show them what we feel like Temple is all about now as we go into 2016. So I think we're of that mindset. We definitely try to raise the bar across the board to what we're able to do here. But in terms of that content that our department provides, that in-house stuff that we give to the Eagles folks and that we work with our marketing department to cultivate, we're trying to have that be unified across the board, so that whether you're at a Temple field hockey game or a football game or a men's basketball game, you're going to see and feel some of those same things and get the sense that it is a Temple athletics event.
Sure. Any of the rest of you guys have any thoughts on different types of content for different sports in particular? Or
I mean, for us in LaSalle, it's sometimes difficult for us to compete with the Penn States and the Temples of the world. So our brand is really academics and service. So anything we can do with our on-demand content and tie in the academic piece and the service piece, and the fact that we're telling the story of LaSalle University as a Christian Brothers Catholic school, how we can tell that through our teams and our athletes, we try to do that.
We just rebranded at Penn, Champion Your Life. It's about celebrating the quality of people that come to Penn, the high character. So that's the type of stories that we're trying to tell on the board. And we're also really trying to showcase the inside replays and really showing and not telling. So if we do have a sponsored element, it's not about playing a commercial. It's about how do we incorporate the sponsored element into some sort of theme or fan cam or something that just doesn't throw up a commercial so they can have 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I think we struggle with trying to get the student section involved at some points in the game. So our content is more catered to maybe hype videos, something to, just get the atmosphere, everybody pumped up. So.
Okay. Danny, you go ahead, Jim.
I just want to add one thing, and that is for us, and the guys have done a great job describing this, and that is regardless of the event that we're in, you know that you're at a Penn State event. Our goal is to support our student athletes. That's where our mission starts. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and Start With Your Why. And our why is our 800 plus student athletes and supporting our 31 teams. So each of those teams come into a different venue with different expectations. But our season ticket holders for whether it's wrestling, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, ice hockey, they realize that when they buy a season ticket, they're not necessarily, their dollars aren't going to pump into extras at a facility so that they've got the latest and the greatest of everything. They realize that their dollars for season tickets are supporting a self-sustaining ticket or a self-sustaining athletic program. And that's really important because when they do come to an Eagles game or a Steelers game or they go to a Sixers game or a Flyers game, there is an expectation that your ticket is going to get you a certain type of experience. There's no way that we can compete with that because our revenue, as I said, we're self-sustaining. So every dollar that we spend, we have to raise. So we don't take money away from the university that could go towards other academic endeavors. And it's constantly reminding our season ticket holders or even a single game ticket buyer what your dollars are going towards. And that's why you don't lose sleep at night not being able to, you can't compete with the Eagles or a Temple home game. It's an incredible experience. But when you look at it and you remind them constantly of why we are doing what we do, it makes it easier.
Okay. You guys mentioned a few other things throughout your comments that I think we can elaborate more on as we go through the next half hour here towards the finish line. But what are the ways that you can really establish what it means to be at a Penn State event or a Penn event or whatever it may be, is the effort that you guys put into your kind of pregame intro videos. They seem to resonate more in the college world than even at, even at the pro level. So do you guys, and I'll start with you, Kevin, do you guys build those in-house, outsource them? How involved is marketing in, whether there's a catchphrase or whatever it may be? How do you guys go about producing those, and how might that differ by sport?
Sure. So we build those all in-house, and we're really a small shop. So I kind of oversee the communications, video, marketing, promotions, social, community service side of the house. So video.
Just that side.
Yeah, video is just one minor portion, and our video expert is at another conference today. But she does that all in-house, and we play in a small, cozy, some may call high school gymnasium. So when we added video boards, enabling us to have some kind of hype video, really add it to the experience. We're not yet to the point where we can turn off our lights. That's the situation we're in, because if we turn them off, they wouldn't turn back on until halftime, unfortunately. So we really take a lot of pride in the hype videos that we create, and even trying to do some hype videos during 30-second timeouts, later in the game. So that's the way we look at it.
Right.
Currently, we outsource our basketball hype video to Wipeout Productions. Following up with that, they like to get a lot of sound bites with the players saying, this is our team, blah, 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 to kind of just, resonate with the fans. You get to know everybody. So I just think that, getting to know the team a little bit in the hype video kind of, demonstrates the Villanova brand.
I like that catchphrase too. Hashtag blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Intro videos and hype videos, I think it's one of the areas where we are really, in fact, 1 year ago tomorrow was my first day at Temple and really the launch of our in-house video department. So we are still pretty brand new in terms of this whole scheme of college athletics video. So that's one of the areas of emphasis that we've put on our marketing and our branding elements going into year 2, is to be able to create all those intro videos in-house, which we did last year, but it was mainly highlight driven. So we had some game action that production company that Temple outsourced to the year before we got there, they had done. That was pretty much all we had at our disposal. So already we've shot some specific elements for our football intro video. Black Rose was the company that we contracted with to help us with some of that rebranding effort. We were able to basically piggyback onto their photo shoot that they were doing for our posters and some of our marketing elements and actually make that into some of the shots for the intro video. So now you've got a greater sense of cohesion. The intro video will look like the poster, will look like our ticket stock, and everything is starting to have the look and the feel that we want it to. So it's something definitely that we collaborate with marketing on. I think one of the things that we've worked with some of our Olympic sports intro videos is actually limiting the amount of collaboration we get from our teams and our coaches and trying to streamline that process a little bit and be able to have a little bit more creative and editorial control. So that's kind of where we are intro video-wise going into year 2.
That's a brave endeavor. And as I called my video, I forgot to intro that. We'll get to that in a second. The intro videos at Penn, what we try to focus on and what it really lives beyond just the dozen or so games that it'll play and for our fans is our coaches really use that as the signature program piece for recruiting. So when we're trying to put together a piece that's an intro video, a little bit less hype, I would say, but more looking at the programs as it's a dream to play at Penn. The academic excellence with the athletics excellence and the world-class facilities that have this beautiful skyline view. So we try to leverage that as one of our top points of emphasis is when we're putting something together, we're trying to focus on how can the coaches use this also beyond just the home games, because that is what they use as a signature piece when they go out to recruits' homes, which we'll see in a little bit of this sizzle reel from the beginning part is the intro videos.
Time now for great moments in Quaker history. January 15th, 1974.
In Week 10 of the 1987 season, the Quakers met Dartmouth College in weather more characteristic of New England than Philadelphia.
When it was over, you better believe the Red and Blues fans stormed the court. After all, it was Penn's first win over Temple since 1982.
This emoji. Well, that's like...
Y'all ready for this?
Great job getting the late great Harry Callison there.
Had to
too.
put Harry Callison there and a little brotherly love for my man Kevin.
Yeah, we had a reel of Temple basketball beating Penn, but Brandon said it would take too long to play. So.
Wow. Jim, I even forgot what the question even was. Oh yeah, hype videos. Yeah.
Intro, yes. So this goes back to knowing your crowd too, where you are. For us at football, the intro video is extremely important. It's not the most important 90 seconds of the day, but it's very important. And in that venue, it's where you want to create something that is a wow factor for both the recruit that's on the sideline watching that to also the oldest season ticket holder that's in the venue. So you're drawing on the history of the program, the tradition, the success of today, of yesterday, and also what you expect to happen in the future. So, and it also is going to cross over into not just drawing on football, but it's also going to have some shots of on campus, of signature locations on campus. The Lion Shrine, our president's building called Old Main, maybe the Creamery, some things that you want the fans to be able to relate to what's happening there. And if they can't relate to what is happening in an athletic play, they can relate to being at Old Main or getting their picture taken at the Lion Shrine. So the intro video is extremely, extremely important. We have a combination. We produce some of them in-house. The ones that we don't, we oversee every step of the production of that. We do engage the coaching staffs of each one of them. And I think it's important that when you do that, you just have very clear boundaries of how much feedback you're going to be able to take. You're going to have to establish clear drop-dead dates of when things, and this is the last change you're going to make. And also just having realistic expectations. We're now creating intro videos for teams that don't even have video boards. 5 years ago, I never thought we would be doing a men's tennis intro video, but now we've got a couple of 80-inch screens in their clubhouse, so they play a video. So we do those things too. For men's basketball, we hope to have some history like Villanova's had and some success like that. So that intro video doesn't focus as much on the tradition and past as much as a wow factor for that. And hockey, we've only had a Division I program for 3 years. So with that, you're really looking at just a lot of high-end, fast-cutting, a lot of high-energy piece. So it goes back again to knowing what your history is.
Now, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, so we don't all have to comment on this, but where does music rights fall into all this? I'm sure a lot of people come to the venue and they, your hype video might be the most shareable content you have, but you can't throw it up on YouTube if Centuries by Fall Out Boy is the background song. So do you guys think about that at all, or do you just go, well, it is what it is, and you don't think too much about it?
Yeah, we don't. Our risk management and general counsel do not have much of an appetite for taking risk. So we do not post anything on the web that is copyrighted. So our football intro video uses the soundtrack, pieces of the soundtrack from Gladiator. So that intro video cannot be found online anywhere.
And playing off the, our intro videos, attracting a younger audience and playing to the recruits and maybe our student fans. What's interesting is electronic dance music has kind of gone more mainstream, and on YouTube you'll find a lot of royalty-free, risk-free downloads of EDM music that play well to the younger crowd, but also aren't too edgy for the older crowd to enjoy as well.
All right.
So EDM is coming. Yeah.
Good tip.
I think I'm going to plead the fifth on this one. I'm going to sit this one out, but I will say that the decision has been made at a very high administrative level to do what it is we do with music.
All right, moving along, guys. If anyone has any questions from the audience, I want to give you an opportunity for that too. I know we got a lot of colleges in the crowd. It's great to see all of you. Okay, keep cooking them up in your head. Students, obviously a huge part of everything that you guys do. And that's true whether you're talking about video board production or web live streaming events and all those things. How many students are you working into your in-venue video productions, whether it's manning cameras or operating switchers or whatever it may be? And how do you go about keeping them kind of a steady crop rotating through, whether they're graduating or leaving school or whatever it may be? Kevin?
Yeah, it's a challenge. We're a small school. We've tried to get our communication department to really work with us, and it's a great opportunity, we think, for them and a great opportunity for us, but it's a challenge. So we've got accounting majors and nursing majors and kids that don't know basketball from a soccer ball running our cameras and kind of running our 3-play, but it's rewarding for us when you can train a kid that doesn't really have a background or maybe an interest in pursuing a career in this field. You teach them how to run a 3-play, and by the end of the year, they're doing a great job. So, we have more success in the fall and the winter than, once the spring comes around and your seniors are kind of checked out from helping you out, that's a little bit of a challenge. But, we're just pushing along, and I'm curious to see what the rest of my colleagues up here have at bigger schools and with maybe more robust sports management or communication programs.
Well, at Villanova, they don't have a video production, course that they offer there. So, definitely getting students engaged in the, athletics department is a challenge. But I think the draw to us is probably the fact that they get to work men's basketball games, so that, we get a lot of student workers eager to do that. And I've found that when working with college students, the more organized you are, you know, the further out you schedule things, the better chance they're actually going to show up on game day. That's always an issue, I think, when working with student workers, just because college students are, you know, college students. They're not the most, you know, dependable people.
Yeah, that's been one of the issues for us. Kevin and I were kind of commiserating about this yesterday at the reception, but Temple actually has a very robust communications program. There are a lot of ways for students to get involved, and they do get involved. The issue for us is, since we were brand new this time last year, there were already many established avenues for students who wanted to get involved with video production to do so, and so we didn't serve as much of a need or an outlet for students. They were already running cameras or on camera or doing whatever they were doing through our student TV stations and things like that. So our biggest challenge in this first year and going into year two is just letting students know who we are and what we do. We obviously do have closer access than our student TV stations do, and we do have you know, some carrots to put on the stick, so to speak, but it was just kind of a matter of getting our name out there. The companies that we associate with for video board production, they've been around a while, and they have a little bit more robust feeder program set up, so we're trying to partner with them and figure out ways where we can integrate our video board production with our live streaming, for instance, and be able to have one student kind of serve both of those roles. We are also adding 2 graduate assistants going into this fall, so that's a nice show of support from our administration. We've got 3 full-time staff members, so we've now kind of got a hybrid, so it's not just us and students, that we will have kind of an intermediary in there as well.
And Temple's sports communications program is so robust that we actually recruit a few Temple students to join our team every year, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
We also partner up with the University of Arts in Philadelphia. We're very lucky in that we have a lot of colleges in this area to partner with, and it's just about finding the right professors or right connections that'll lead you to the student talent. And then when you have the student talent, you really got to empower them when they're there. And then from there, really word of mouth will help, I believe. We've seen our team grow exponentially every year because they tell their buddies, hey, you need to get in on this as well. And thankful for SVG for allowing some of my interns to be here today, Brian, Chris, Amy, Randall. So like professional development and allowing those opportunities to network with bigger crowds, leveraging that will keep the students around, I hope.
We recruit just like any team does, any coach does, literally with no restrictions. So 365, we are always recruiting. We've got a distinguished alum who lives down in North Carolina who's coming back to campus tomorrow, and I'm meeting with their daughter and him and basically recruiting her to come to Penn State and hopefully start working with us in the fall. So it is the largest challenge that we face, with the exception of trying to get equipment repaired. So it's a never-ending process. We have a great relationship with the College of Communications, but our 300 video board productions are not an official class. So we offer 4 different internships throughout each semester, and then we also have wage payroll. So we pay students, and ideally we try to get students into our program as a freshman, as a sophomore, go through a semester as an intern. 99% of the time, things go well enough that you want to say, okay, now if you want to keep working, we'd love to have you as part of our team, except now you get paid. We send out a schedule every week where they've got to at least tell us no, they can't work. And you're right, students are students, and it can be a very frustrating thing. I go and speak at local high schools outside of Happy Valley, because we've got a few high school students that have worked with us that are really, really good, and they are very reliable. So we've got a mixture of 16-year-olds to a couple of folks who are retired and have an interest in working in sports production, and whatever it takes to get a show done, especially if you're scheduled for a New Year's Eve basketball game at 6 p.m. You know, those are tough to get scheduled. But the other challenge with students are that sometimes they forget the value of the role that they're playing. So if we're producing a big wrestling match, Penn State, Iowa, and we're doing a stream for the Big Ten Network, we tell them you can't schedule special, and you don't always know when that magic moment's going to happen, and they've got to be ready and realize that it can happen at any time. And whether they're a utility, or whether they're the font assistant, or whether they're the third replay op, that moment might happen, and they may make that contribution to the production that ends up getting archived, and we end up using in the next hype reel. So I think at our level, you have to have a sense of being able to teach and be okay that you're going to have to say it all the time and be very repetitive and know that every production for a lot of people is the first production.
Okay.
I'll make one more point about students real quick. A pipeline that we've started to develop at Temple, but I actually had a great deal of success with when I was down at the University of Georgia before I came here, is student athletes, which sounds kind of counterintuitive. Obviously, their schedules are extremely demanding, but we have lucked into some of our best interns, some of our hardest working interns, and the most coachable interns, which is not a coincidence, are our student athletes. We've got a volleyball player right now who I bet has been our best student intern at Temple, and that's one of the areas where word of mouth can really be great, because obviously they've got a team that they're going back and talking to, or that sees them, you know, helping out behind the scenes with cameras. So Georgia, we just developed organically this pipeline with our gymnastics team, where we started to have a senior and a junior every year that we could count on from the gymnastics team. The senior would graduate, and in some cases, we hired them for full-time positions. And so that just became a constant replenishing source of interns, and that's something that we're trying to develop at Temple. So smaller schools especially, or if you don't have a communications program, I think that's really a great resource to tap into.
That's great. A lot of the previous panels earlier in the day, you heard a lot of the pro teams talking about their philosophies and strategies behind replays. What are your guys' focuses on them? Is that NCAA, conference, your own personal choice until someone says otherwise? And what are your philosophies? Are you just showing good plays? Will you ever dive into a controversial play and show a controversial play? What are your kind of thoughts on that? Brian, let's start with you.
Sure. We are part of the Ivy League Digital Network, and our in-venue production comes from that stream. And so our philosophy is we'll show replays that the fans at home want to see. And then it's up to the marketing director, who's in control of our board, and chooses what goes live if they want to put that up on the board for in-venue fans. So it's out of my hands at that point.
All right, so he takes the lumps if She. All right, there you go. Anyone else? Anyone else do anything out of the ordinary?
So the Big Ten Conference has got a variety of different rules and regs depending on the sport. Football currently, and we follow everyone to the T, but with football, right now, you can currently show anything you want. So for our football productions, we have a 12-camera show, and then we're pulling at least 2 or 3 feeds from the network that might be televising. We're going to show everything that we can, depending on the play.
Right.
So, but we will go ahead and do that. With men's basketball, right now the conference is not as inclined to encourage in-venue to show controversial replays. Wrestling, there isn't as much interest in wrestling because there isn't an official policy. It's more official comes over to the table, puts on a headset, and we just show him whatever he wants. He talks literally to the video board director. Mm-hmm. So I see it's evolving. It really is evolving.
Sure.
We're pretty conservative at LaSalle, so we'll shy away from anything that might be controversial. You know, we'll show a great play coming in or out of a timeout, but as far as, you know, kids' foot's on the line or a buzzer beater, we shy away from that stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. One last big topic to dive into is, in many cases, you guys are responsible when someone says video. That could mean a lot of things. That could mean social. That could mean in-venue video. That could mean live event production going outside to fans who are outside, whether they're watching on a digital network or on a local television network or whatever that may be. How many of you guys on the panel, I guess just by show of hands, are involved in dual productions where you're doing a video board show and a live stream of that event at the exact same time? Okay, so everybody. All right. How do you face that challenge? Are you I'm sure you're multi-purposing gear, but do you have 2 different crews with 2 different goals, or is it one crew that knows that they're, hey, if you're a camera operator, just shoot like you're always hot? You know, what's kind of your strategy behind that?
Yeah, so we're doing essentially what I understand is 2 productions with 1 crew. So we'll have a video stream going out to the world and shooting content for the board. Luckily for our men's games, I guess somewhat luckily, during play we'll have a stat graphic on our board. So our kids are shooting for highlights in that regard. And then once a timeout comes or halftime, we'll go live to the board with fan cams or dance cams or that type of thing. But essentially, it's 1 crew doing 2 productions that go in and out of, you know, what's the priority at that given moment.
At Villanova, we had 2 cameras dedicated to both, getting tight shots of the game and then servicing the marketing department during promotions. And then we had 1 camera that would go wide during those promotions so that, I could just take to that camera during the live stream and, nobody would really notice at home.
Yeah, for football, for men's basketball, and most of our women's basketball games, we're not doing any streaming those games through our conference TV deal. It's picked up by television, so the video board can just worry about being the video board. Typically with our non-conference women's basketball games, with our volleyball, gymnastics, and now soon with the new Temple Sports Complex, our Olympic sports, we are going to have this dual production philosophy. So just because the resources have been there on the video board side, we have found it easier to go the other way, and we will follow the video board stream. So we'll take a program feed from them, and we'll cover it when we need to. So if we don't want to show the dance cam, for instance, we can put up, we can run our own commercials through the TriCaster. We can put up a full screen graphic that says we're in a break. So that's the way that we've done it. It's simplified our workflow, having a smaller staff. We find it easy to take that program feed. That's not going to be an option to us at this new complex, so we have discussed either not running live video on the video board, or if we do, it will come from the stream. So that's something that we're currently in the process of reevaluating which follows which, but anytime we can get a program feed, we'll take it.
So at Penn, we're one production team servicing the Ivy League Digital Network stream as well as the in-venue experience. And what we're trying to do is we're in a very nascent stage of our digital network. So we will take 1 break per game where we will do an in-venue experience and not go to a commercial break and be able to service the fans that way, and be able to cover up all the other breaks with either pre-produced elements or something like that. So that's really where we're at. I think eventually we're going to come across a bridge where we're going to have to decide whether we're servicing just the stream or servicing just the video board, but I think the technology will continue to push us to a way where we're going to be able to have an option for that that's relatively at a low price point with video over IP or splitters and routers that we can use to have 2 production teams in the future at a low cost.
Kind of complicated, but 2011 and 12, we installed 3 control rooms. One that produces our football show and also our men's and women's basketball video board show, and then also men's and women's ice hockey. So we partnered with Sony to create this system where we have the same equipment in all 3 control rooms. And campus is relatively wired relatively well. So we can also, if there's a basketball conflict, we can switch and produce that hockey show from another control room over at Rec Hall. Thanks to conference scheduling, we have had men's basketball, men's ice hockey, and women's volleyball happening at the same time. So all 3 control rooms are going at the same time. And then that video board show for volleyball usually also then streams. Because there isn't live video on the video board during play, you're doing the live stream. So the only way that happens is having a great design team, which Sony was with us when we built the facility, and then also having clear expectations on what you're delivering to your fans and having really good students help you deliver and meet expectations.
Last chance for questions from the audience here. Yes, right up front.
I would say that without a doubt that this area from a job perspective is exploding. I think that what I hear everyone here saying is that for the students that you can get to and that you can get them into your control rooms or out in the field during remote productions, you're preparing them for a competitive advantage for when they graduate. And that's your recruiting pitch, that if you're going to graduate and not do anything while you're there at school versus the student who's going to work with someone and do basketball, women's volleyball, hockey, fencing, you're ready and you're going to be able to get a job. And I think right now the market is hiring a lot of people at that entry level, especially as things like the Pac-12 network develop the SEC network, Longhorn network, Big Ten network, digital network. I mean, there's a lot of production happening. And whether you're a freelancer or whether you're a student graduating, I think that this is a great time to get into the market, in my own opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know if everybody agrees with that. That's just my own opinion.
To definitely add on, and what Jim said earlier with being self-sustaining, you have to prove that you're making the department enough money to justify those jobs. But just the proof is in the pudding here at Penn. As recently as 2013, we had 2 part-timers, and today we have 2 full-timers. So within 3 years, at a college level where it's very political and very difficult in a climate to raise money, we've added 2 full-timers to our video department. So and I know Temple's done something similar.
Yeah, like I said, a year ago today, I was not working at Temple, and now we've got 3 full-timers. I've got Scott and Chris with me here in the audience, and we're already adding 2 graduate extern positions after just 1 year of being up and running. So I think we're seeing that the demand, at least at Temple, and I'm sure every one of these guys has the same story, the demand for content is outstripping the supply. Now it's a matter of getting schools to invest and put more into full-time staff positions, but I think the trajectory is just going up, and we'll take any full-time positions that they'll give us.
Yeah, I believe as the marketing department sees the value of video content, there will be more jobs available. So at Nova, we're adding a intern position after this being a full-time position for 4 years. Before it was a graduate internship. So definitely progressing.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I'll just add the one caveat that I've been fighting as recently as yesterday is that at LaSalle, for us, if we could add a full-time strength coach or another full-time trainer or another full-time corporate salesperson, sometimes or most times that takes precedent over a full-time video person, unfortunately. I'm banging my head against the wall trying to fight through that, but that's where we're at right now at our place.
And I'm sure part of the struggle is that you'll get your opportunities to invest in gear probably more often than you might get your chance to invest in a person. I would imagine you might even would prefer, like, I don't need another camera. I'd rather have a, full-time this or that. We have one more question from the front.
Yeah, in recent years, Title IX has been a hot topic at the collegiate level. So have any of you faced those challenges dealing with Title IX as far as like producing videos or even on a broadcasting spectrum for the bigger universities?
We haven't faced too many issues at Penn. I think what we do is we measure everything. Like every video we do, we measure the results. So if we have a coach that is suspecting that we're treating the men's team more favorably than the women's team, we immediately pull out the sheet and say, 15 videos for you, 15 videos for the men, it's even. So just making sure you measure, you have a justification for everything you're doing, then I think you're on the good side of the Title IX law.
And as far as like Temple and Penn State, obviously, I don't think a women's sport can match to what you're doing here in the link or what the football team is doing. Right,
and I think, so when you're talking Title IX, which we could spend a whole weekend talking about it, and because it's very involved. Football doesn't play a role because there's percentages involved when you get into Title IX and in meeting what's mandated. So we don't have a women's wrestling team, and we've got a football team. So there's already a percentage that's not going to come out 50-50. You don't have to be 50-50. But we do the same production for women's volleyball that we do for men's volleyball. We do the same production for women's basketball that we do for men's basketball. Same production for women's soccer that we do for men's. Same for women's gymnastics, men's gymnastics. Same for, and I'm leaving out a big one, women's ice hockey, men's ice hockey. For every single event that we have on campus, about 98% will send a camera to that event so that we get highlights. So whether it's women's tennis, women's fencing, etc., we don't treat it or look at it like, oh, well, that's a women's event, we have to go cover it. We look at it like that's a Penn State athletics event. That's our student athletes competing. We want to go out and cover it. So that's our perspective. But also, I think with what we do, it's very easy and transparent to go to our websites and to see what content is there and what content is not there. So we don't look at it like, oh, we did 3 of this year, we got to do 4 next year. We try to produce as much content as we can. Now, we have compliance officers, we have Title IX coordinators that we meet with on an annual basis, and we have a great, very transparent relationship there. So if there was a issue or a concern, it would definitely be brought up.
Yeah, I'll pretty much echo everything that Jim said. I think when we get into the different levels of coverage between our sports, the conversation isn't driven so much by Title IX. We're all aware of it. It's there in the background. But our conversations are just based on strategy and best practices and things like that, what's right for our teams, what's right for our student athletes. So yes, in the course of a year, we are going to do more football videos than we are for any other individual team. That's where the numbers are, that's where the revenue is. But we have established certain baselines across the board where no matter what the sport is, if it's a home event, like Jim said, there is at minimum a camera present. We're going to have highlights from that event. We're going to have at minimum a certain number of features across the board that are going to be distributed between our 19 sports, and then the rest of it just kind of takes care of itself. But Title IX's there, but that's not the reason that we do or don't do something.
Okay. Running up against the clock here, but we got time for 2 questions. Let's start.
This goes in with the content that you create when the ball is like not in play, or there isn't any action on the court or in the field. For smaller schools like Widener, we don't have video boards, so we focus mainly on our streaming. So what type of content do you guys have created or have ready to push out once the ball is in stop or is not in play?
Some content during breaks, everyone's eyes whipped to the video board, different kinds of things that you've touched on so far?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the professional organizations, we try to tell the story of our student athlete beyond what they do on the court or on the field. What kind of student. A lot of them have great stories that need to be told. We try to do the fan interaction stuff. Also, I'll throw out working with your university PR staff and whatever messaging they have, university branding, commercials, those types of things. Those are always good filler for breaks.
The other piece would be figuring out if you don't have anything and you're just looking for something, is if you're using live stats or stat crew, how do you get that stat feed and be able to just plug that in during a break? And then if you've got multiple pages, you've got someone just clicking on those every 15 seconds or something. I mean, that's if you have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think obviously at a school that has limited resources, finding things, if you are doing videos for the website, if you are doing videos for social media, if you've got any video content, that's great filler, and you should be getting it out to as many different audiences and as many different platforms as possible when you're at that kind of stage in broadcasting. So if it's a 2.5 minute video that you did during the week, maybe on one of your football players, that's great in a quarter break, something like that. Finding a way to, if it gets seen here, make sure it gets seen over here too, and just kind of get it out on as many platforms as possible.
But the only thing I'd add to that is if your fans don't know that it's coming and you're going to put a lot of effort into plugging in a hole, I would make sure that they know it's coming. So if you're using a student announcer or something, make sure that people know what you're going to do at halftime. Because if people are used to a 1-camera or 2-camera stream, or even if they're just hearing the PA announcer, they're banking on that halftime of not doing anything. Maybe they're grabbing, going to the fridge, get something to eat. Maybe they're doing, I don't know, something on their to-do list. But if you're going to be showing a great feature that you have, you want to make sure people know it's coming.
Right, want to wrap it up with Carl in the back?
Yeah, I guess, we talked a lot about live production tonight, but I'm kind of curious, are you guys giving students at your universities the opportunity to edit in post-production, learn After Effects, Photoshop? I know we hear a lot about always the live event side, but are they having the opportunity to get those experiences and use that in your arenas? And if so, how do you identify those kids who excel, get them to put together a demo reel, and then introduce them to the pro teams that kind of take that next step?
I'll start. We did not have the ability to do that last year, and that's one of the big things as we talked about, things that we wanted to improve upon, things that we wanted to change going into year 2. That actually may have been at the top of our list, is the fact that as we were currently set up, we've got me, Scott, and Chris right in a row, 3 cubicles, and that's it. There's no other computer, there's no other space. So if we had a student come in during the day, we could either give up one of our computers and sit behind them and watch them, or have them watch us. But it was fairly counterproductive, and that well dried up very quickly. So we were limited to using our students only in live production role. It's the biggest thing that we wanted to change going into this year. Fortunately, someone gave some money to our academic center to get them all new computers, so we will be getting the hand-me-downs, and we'll have a student workstation this year. So in terms of identifying that talent, developing it, cultivating it, and passing it along to the next level, we're not quite there yet, but it's something that we've got a very active eye on going into this year to kind of create a student workspace where they can be doing more than just showing up and operating a camera. They can actually get involved in feature production.
And to piggyback off of Kevin, first you do have to fight for the space to have the students work in. We had an old mailroom in the basement of our coach's office, which was completely useless for a mailroom. So we moved it up to the second floor and we put our editors in there, and now we have enough space for our students to really spread out and work. Second thing is you need resources. We had a part-time video content creator this year, and just 20 hours a week is not enough time to be able to have training for your students. Now with a full-time video content creator, we're gonna have that time to train. And one of the key things we worked on this off-season was a video style guide. With having so many interns and turnover and 6 months or 10-month interns, to keep a consistent look and feel, we have a video style guide now where they can look at, and it's very visual, and match that to what they're creating and make sure it's on brand and matching what we're looking for in our look.
I agree. We have one workstation for our students. We've been fortunate. I kind of slammed the comm school a little bit at our place, but we have been able to get an intern from the comm school to have a student work with us. And as Carl knows, Carl works with us for game days. We use the connections we have with the Phillies, the Union, and the Eagles as our recruiting tool. You can work with us and meet these great guys, and if you do a good job and they like you, maybe that can help you out with an internship down here or at the Phillies or the Union.